Hello everyone and welcome back to Car and Bike. I'm Bilal and today we have with us the all-new Nissan X-Trail. Now the X-Trail is not a new name in India. The second generation model was on sale for a brief period in 2007. Now this fourth generation X-Trail, it's making a comeback and it's taking a CBU route. But there are a few hits and misses. So in this video, we'll be taking a detailed look at the new X-Trail. We'll be taking a look at its exterior, its interior, the space and practicality on offer, and also the features it comes with. And we'll also tell you how it is to drive in the real world condition, and there's a lot to talk about, so stick till the end. But before we begin, do consider subscribing to the Car and Bike YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon so that you can be notified about all our videos firsthand. And if you want to watch the extra review in Hindi, do head on to our other channel, Car and Bike Hindi. Now let me begin with the exterior and the design of the X-Trail first, and let me tell you that the X-Trail is one handsome looking SUV. When it comes to road presence and sheer size, it has got it in the bag. What catches your attention is how well proportioned the entire SUV stance of the X-Trail is. It has got a flat bonnet, a flat roofline, an upright tailgate, and all the right muscle in all the right places. Up front, there's a Nissan V-Motion grille which also has the right burliness to go with the SUV's stance. And it's just the right amount of chrome as well. Flanking the grille is the split headlamp setup, but the designers have made it look like the headlamp is inside the bodywork, and that's a nice touch. You get an LED signature, but the interesting bit are those air inlets lower down. It is done to improve the aerodynamics and reduce the drag coefficient. On the side, the wheels measure 20 inches, adding to the brawn of the X-Trail, and they're wrapped in sportier 255/45 section tires. In profile, there's a prominent girth and the X-Trail stands tall with proper character lines on the side. At the back, the sleek tail lamps are high placed, and a muscle I mentioned earlier is also seen prominently here with the shape of the bumper, skid plate and the roof mounted spoiler. Now with the X-Trail, there are only 3 color choices for the buyers. There's a white, there's a titanium, and what you see here, the all black. Now I personally prefer this all black treatment to the X-Trail because it goes with the overall stance of the SUV. But what do you think about the styling and the design of the X-Trail? Let us know in the comment section below. And before we talk about the interior space, here's how the X-Trail stacks up against its direct and indirect rivals in terms of dimensions. It is bigger than the Compass in every aspect. The Harrier and Safari are wider, but the X-Trail is longer and taller. It even outsizes the Hyundai Tucson except in the width. It's only the Mahindra XUV 700 that is bigger than the X-Trail on paper. Now we move a segment above, and in comparison, both the Skoda Kodiaq and the Jeep Meridian are longer and wider, but the X-Trail is taller than the both. And the Japanese nemesis in the form of the Fortuner is much bigger than the X-Trail. Now stepping inside the cabin, this all dark theme cabin might not impress you right away or make you go wow, because most of the cars nowadays they do make you feel special. But when you spend a lot of time here in the cabin, you would realize that this is a very no-fuss cabin. In a typical Japanese manner, it does everything right, but it doesn't. It is very flamboyant about it. So, starting with the all-digital driver's display, you get a wide screen with a lot of animation and graphics, and you have a lot of information there. But right beside it, the touchscreen, it doesn't feel like it belongs here. It's small, it has a very basic dynamics and basic graphics as well. And I wish in today's time, when the touch screens are growing bigger and bigger, this smaller unit could have had a little more finesse. Lower down, you have physical buttons for AC. You do get dual zone climate control, and below that you have a Type C port and a Type A port as well with a wireless charging pad. Now this entire center console, it is a floating console because there is a space down here below. It is not exactly very usable or practical, but you do get practical large size cup holders here. There is underarm storage as well, but again I wish it had a huge cubby hole space, but it is been hindered by a small compartment given inside. Apart from that, the ergonomics while sitting here behind the wheel, it is good. All the controls are quite reachable. I like the way how the dashboard has a concoction of different designs. So first up, the top half has a brown finish. In the middle, you have soft touch material with a contrast white stitching. Lower down, you have brushed aluminium or plastic finish. But staying here for a longer period of time, it's not a bad place. Especially with these seats, they are large, they hug you in the right place, and if I have to travel a long journey behind the steering wheel, I don't think I'll get tired a lot. But I wish this would be a very expensive car, and I wish that there was a leatherette seat upholstery option over here, and I also wish that there was electric adjustment for the seat, which is a huge miss. There's a decently long feature list on offer. Apart from the panoramic sunroof, you also get a 360-degree camera, an all-digital driver's display, auto headlamps, dual-zone climate control, paddle shifters, rain-sensing wipers, and 7 airbags. But what the X-Trail misses out on is offering some feel-good features which have now become common in even mass-market Indian cars. Features like leatherette upholstery for the seats, ventilated seats, powered tailgate, a heads-up display, even powered front seats, and also keeping up with the trend, ADAS. Now on to the second row, and one thing that we really like about this X-Trail is how wide the doors open. It's almost 85 to 90 degree. Because of that, you get a good amount of ingress, and stepping inside isn't too difficult either because of the high floor height. Now once inside, the space I have on offer is quite generous. The front seat is set to my driving position, and I have acres of leg room. But that might change when we move on to the third row, because right now the third row has zero space. We'll get to that later, but here in the second row, you get a 60-40 split seat with the right-hand side seat being the 41. And for amenities, you do or you can fold up the center armrest or the backrest of the second row seat to turn it into an armrest, and then you get 2 cup holders, a place to stack your smartphone. There's also space behind the driver's seat. You get a USB Type A and Type C with dedicated air vents. There is no separate climate control here, just an AC vent. I also like the fact that the panoramic sunroof, it's large and it makes the cabin feels quite airy, especially helps with the fact that this window is quite large, and you also get a rear quarter window. And again, if I was supposed to drive intercity between like 1,000 kilometers in the second row, I won't be complaining. Overall, the second row of the X-Trail is not a bad place to be. Now it's time to move on to the third row. Again, as the seat was set to my position, as you can see, there's no space at the back. But then you have a railing here. I pull the seat forward, and getting inside is, again, for any 3-row SUV, not very graceful. Once behind, I can take this seat slightly back. I have an adjustment for the headrest, and barely any headroom. It's just touching. As you can see, it's a very tight fit. I have just enough shoulder room and elbow room to move around, and if there's a second person here, we will be knocking each other out quite a lot. Now, as I've sat in the third row, the leg room for the second row has reduced a bit, but again, it is not as uncomfortable for the second row passenger as it is for me. There's barely any leg room, there's barely any headroom. I do get 2 cup holders on each side, but there's no dedicated AC vent either. Thankfully, there is a small window, and yeah, that's about it. Third row in the X-Trail is not for full-grown adult, even if it's a very short journey. Now finally behind the wheel of the Nissan X-Trail, and there's only one powertrain choice for now. Internationally, you do get a plug-in range-extended hybrid, and we expected that engine to also be offered here in India. But instead what you get is a 1.5-litre 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine, which is paired to a CVT automatic gearbox. Now this engine, it makes around 160 horsepower and 300 Newton meter, but that's the least interesting thing about it. Because you see, this engine is special. It's based on a technology that is called as variable compression ratio engine. Now this technology is quite new, and let me take some time to explain how it works. Now compression ratio is a ratio between a cylinder. Engine block has a cylinder, and that cylinder has a compression ratio where the piston is at its topmost position to the most bottommost position. Now this compression ratio, if it's on a lower side, say a petrol engine, it has a compression ratio of 8 to 14. The lower the compression ratio, the engine produces more power. It's more responsive, it's quick. On the other hand, if the compression ratio is high, say 14 to 25 that you usually get in a diesel engine, that engine produces more torque and it is more fuel efficient. Now, this variable compression ratio engine that you get in the Nissan X-Trail is a patented technology, and it makes use of an actuator which changes the relative position of the piston, and with that you get different compression ratios depending on how much throttle you are applying. It's done seamlessly via electronics, and it's a very futuristic technology that is available right now, and it's a revolution of kind. But how is it in real world condition? Now, this engine in itself, it's a 3-cylinder engine, but it's so refined and so silent at idle, you don't even find any vibrations or noises that's usually associated with a 3-cylinder engine. Off the mark, it's very smooth and very eager to roll off the line. And it's also helped by the 12-volt mild hybrid system as well. There's barely any vibrations felt at lower speeds, and once you get going at city speeds, it has good enough grunt for everyday drivability. This SUV is a big one. It's a 3-row SUV which outsides most of the SUVs in the Indian market. And at 160 horsepower available even lower down, it's good enough for everyday drivability without making you feel like you're underpowered. More so, this engine is quite rev happy. Despite being a turbo petrol engine, if I am doing say 40 to 60 km per hour at around 1500 to 2000 RPM, once I smash the throttle, the engine happily revs all the way to the 6000 RPM red mark. But more surprisingly, if you move on to highway speeds, which I'm doing right now, I'm doing highway speeds since I've gotten the car, and never once does this 160 horsepower X-Trail feels underpowered, because I can hold triple-digit speeds on the highway all day without feeling any stress. And then when I need some burst to say overtake a slow-moving truck or overtake some traffic, or just I need to go faster, dab on the throttle and there's enough reserve in the engine to pull me through. This high revving engine, which is quite unlikely for a turbocharged petrol engine, it revs nicely, it has a good response, and more importantly, the CVT gearbox, it complements the engine quite well. Nissan has upgraded their CVT game. It's into their 3rd generation now, their CVT technology, and here in the X-Trail you can actually feel how good they have gotten with it. Never once did I ever feel a rubber band effect, never was the engine holding on to the revs for longer, but more importantly, the gear shifts are smooth. It's an 8-step CVT, but you never realize how smooth the engine is rowing through them, through those steps, and how seamlessly you gain speed when out on the highway. Even when you are like going full bore throttle, the CVT, it just manages to gain up speed without causing any delays whatsoever. That also brings us to the fuel efficiency, because Nissan claims that this powertrain would give you around 13 kmpl. That's the claimed figures, but ever since I've been driving, I have been consistently seeing around 10 to 11 km per liter. And if that's accurate, I could expect that in a real world condition, the X-Trail is good enough for 10 to 12 km per liter, and that's good enough for an SUV this size. Now, coming to the steering in itself, the steering feel in itself is very light, especially at slow speeds, which doesn't really go well with the overall personality, the brute personality of the X-Trail. When you start picking up pace, little weight is added to it, and when out on the highway, it has good enough weight. But again, it still feels quite light to operate, which again is not very ideal for a big SUV. But surprising, it's a big surprise there, because this steering, it is very quick. It goes less than or just around 2.5 turns lock to lock, and it's quite responsive as well. So it's a light steering with a very responsive feedback, and this combination is a really good combination to have, especially in an SUV this size, because you don't expect an SUV this size to handle this well. Lastly, we come to the ride quality, and that is on a stiffer side. Now that's expected, because this is a European car which is made to go on smoother roads. But once it encounters the broken asphalt or the big potholes, sharp potholes here in India, it will feel unsettled. Now, I'm not saying that all the little irregularities would be felt inside, given that it's riding on a 45 profile tire with 20-inch wheels. But no, not all irregularities are transferred inside, only the harshest one. and if you are used to driving on smoother roads, you would actually appreciate this ride, that stiff ride quality. It's only the really bad patches that would throw you around a bit. Now, the Nissan X-Trail will be launched in India in very limited numbers. And since it's taking a CBU route, and as always the case with a CBU product, its success all boils down to the price bracket that Nissan plans to launch the X-Trail in India. It is expected to carry a price tag of around 40 to 45 lakh rupees, which makes it jump a segment from which it belongs to. And at this price point, it needs to justify its presence as well. It does that with its road presence, it does that with its engine, which is a gem in itself. It also does that with its Japanese reliability and a practical cabin. Sure, the third row is not very useful for the Indian condition or Indian usage. It does miss out on a lot of features which were essential at its price point. Also, those features are now usually available at a much lower price point, and the X-Trail missing out on that is a real bummer. Now, by some trick, Nissan India launches the X-Trail at under a 40 lakh bracket. They might have a winner at their hand, because the X-Trail, it will become a halo product for Nissan India. It starts a model offensive which the Japanese car maker plans to launch in India in the next 2 years. And an attractive price point or a very aggressive price point will see those limited number of X-Trails that taking the CBU route in India find many buyers immediately. And again, that will also help Nissan as whole to sell off the other products that they plan to launch in the coming few years. So once it's launched, you can actually go into a Nissan showroom and get yourself an X-Trail right away, because Nissan says that all the CBUs that they plan to launch in India are already here, but the deliveries are slated to commence only in a couple of months' time. So what's your opinion on the X-Trail? What do you think? Will it succeed at its price point? What are the good traits of the X-Trail and what could have been better? What are your opinions? We are quite curious to know that, so do write them down in the comment section below. That's all from me in this video. Hope you liked it. If you did, do hit that like button and share this video with those who's looking to buy a full-size SUV in a mid-segment pricing, and they would like to consider the X-Trail. This is Bilal signing off. Until next time.